And we are back with another Monday preview. Guys, we finally got a win. It was great. This is recording prior to the matchup against Pittsburgh, so I'm just referring to the matchup against Dallas. That was last night, but that was pretty nice to watch, friends. But we've got 4 games this final, end of 2025 going into 2026. We've got the New York Islanders, the Dallas Stars once again, the Washington Capitals, and then the Vegas Golden Knights. First on the matchup, we've got the New York Islanders. At the time of recording, they are sitting third out of eighth in the Metro. So the Islanders have had a decently good start for the beginning of the season, kind of coming into this middle of the season time frame. Again, at the time of recording, their last 10 include 6-3-1, so pretty good. Their injured reserve right now, they've got Bear out on a day-to-day, Engvall's out for the season, Palmieri's out for the season. We saw that wicked, tearing up muscle and still making goals happen. Romanov's out month to month with the hit against the Rantanen hit situation. Sorokin's out and Varlamov's out. So the big thing with the New York Islanders is that they have both of their goaltending tandems up from the AHL, and that is Bridgeport. So that is going to be Rittich and Hogberg are up right now because Sorokin and Varlamov are out. Biggest thing for the New York Islanders is the kid that everybody loves to talk about, and that is Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer is doing absolutely magical things for the Islanders, very much reviving the New York Islanders, essentially. The wins have been pretty close in December. Usually, it's by 1 to 2 for a point discrepancy for their wins or for their win margin. Notable forwards for the New York Islanders include Matt Barzal, Bo Horvat, and Emil Heineman. Remember, Heineman was a part of that trade that sent Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens this summer. And so far, he's been doing pretty well for the New York Islanders. So I believe that is turning into a more win-win exchange that happened over the summer between the New York Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens. And then defensemen, you've got Matthew Schaefer, the legend Matthew Schaefer, former Blackhawk legend Adam Boqvist, and then you have Pelech. Biggest things are attack, and gosh darn it, keep that puck away from that small child. You got to be really strong on D. This will be a big step up sort of game for the Artie, for Creech. Defensive just has to be locked down a lot more than they have in the past couple of games. If they can play like they did Saturday against Dallas in terms of defensemen, then, it should be a pretty interesting matchup. But this is definitely going to be one where you're going to want the defensemen to be a little bit stronger and, just keep plain and simple, keep the puck away from Matthew Schaefer. Next up, we got Dallas once again. Their injured reserve is Liam Bichsel, Lyubushkin, Chris McDonald, and Sagan are all out. I think Lyubushkin's the only one that's on a day-to-day, and McDonald's on day-to-day. Everybody else is like month-to-month or a long-term injured reserve. At the time of recording, they're second out of eighth in the Central behind Colorado. And their last 10 is 7-2, and I guess now 2, since they lost to Chicago last night. Their goaltending tandem is Jake Ottinger and Casey DeSmith. Notable forwards is Rantanen, Hintz, Johnston, Robo, Jamie Robertson, and Jamie Benn. Or not Jamie Robertson, Jason Robertson. Defenseman is Heiskanen, Lindell, and Harley. Guys, we saw this Saturday. Dallas was caught sleeping a little bit during the Saturday matchup, and the Hawks were able to capitalize it. But this is not a team that you should be going into being like, oh, we can easily smoke them, because the Dallas Stars are just that good. So they're a big, fast team. It'll be a very tough battle once again. Should be very interesting to see, does Dallas come back with a little bit of extra vengeance since they were caught sleeping during Saturday's matchup? We shall see. But against Saturday did give us kind of a layout of what the boys need to do during the matchup. And just overall, it was really nice to see the boys get the win on Saturday. And so let's do it again the next time we face Dallas. Uh, Third matchup we have is against the Washington Capitals. At the time of recording, their last 10 are 3-4-3. And their injured reserve, you got Pierre-Luc Dubois on a month-to-month, Sandin's out day-to-day, and Tom Wilson apparently is out day-to-day. Goaltending tandem includes Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. Notable forwards is Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, Alexei Protas, and Ryan Leonard, since Ryan Leonard is back from the gnarly hit against Anaheim. Defenseman, you've got Mr. Jacob Chikrin, who is on a Olympic campaign trail at the moment, and John Carlson. Hopefully, I have a note here that says hopefully Spencer Knight's a net, but also after the way that Bloom played against Dallas and stood on his head, hopefully whoever it is in net, this is definitely another game where you have to stand on your head, because anytime you play against Ovi it's not anything to be taken lightly. The big thing with Washington is the injury list hasn't been kind to them. But as of right now, they don't have a ton of guys that are out. Washington's definitely been very much of a roller coaster, at least for the beginning of this year. The highs have been very, very high. The lows have been very, very low. So we shall see. That's kind of been their biggest struggle, has just been kind of the consistency factor. They're also definitely one of those teams where they don't need to be like the most consistent and can kind of go on like cruise control for the beginning of the season and then do more during the playoffs. So we shall see. We're not going to get into the Washington Capitals a ton this week because we also do face off against them next week. And we are going to have our favorite Miss Eva Shapiro, our Washington Capitals enthusiast, break down the Washington Capitals a bit more. But those are just some kind of bigger pieces of the Washington Capitals prior to this first matchup, and then we'll talk about them again when Eva comes on the show next week to really break down, what's been working and what's not been working. Final matchup for this week, Vegas Golden Knights once again. You've got Demick on a day-to-day, Eichel on a day-to-day, Hill on week-to-week, Carlson on week-to-week. Petrangelo's been out since the beginning of the season. We knew that already. And then you got Shea Theodore out on a week-to-week. At the time of recording, they're first in the Pacific, and their last 10 are 6-2-2. Their goaltending tandem is Akira Schmidt and Carter Hart. Notable forwards include Mitch Marner, Eichel, if he's back, will be a huge piece, but if he's not, then that's definitely a hole that Vegas has. Dorofiev, and then the guy that really everybody's been talking about when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights this year, and that's Braden Bowman, one of the younger kids for Vegas, who's been playing pretty well. Defenseman, you got Noah Hannafin, and then Zach Whitecloud. We've faced them before. It was a very close matchup without Bedard and Nazar for this matchup. It definitely should be a challenge. This is going to be a bigger game for, your Moore, your Lardes, your Donato, your Bertuzzi. We're not looking for clean goals. We're not looking for pomp and circumstance sort of goals that we're used to seeing with, Bedard and NASCAR. Just pucks on net. Consistently pucks on net, and just shoot first, think second sort of mentality against Vegas. It's going to be another tough matchup. This whole week is really kind of a tough matchup for the end of the year going into the beginning of the year. With a few exceptions for Vegas, a lot of their matchups in the month of December have been pretty close. So I would imagine it's still going to be a close battle with the boys. It is a back-to-back for them. They will be in Washington on Saturday, and then they'll be home. So it's not a horrible distance, but it's still going to be a back-to-back for them. And so I imagine Bloom gets the net for one of the games, and then we'll get Spencer, whether it's, Spencer for Washington and Bloom for Vegas, or Bloom for Washington and Spencer for Vegas. Not entirely sure, but that is the back-to-back for next weekend. This is the whole matchup list that we've got for this week. We've got the New York Islanders, the Dallas Stars, Washington Capitals, and the Vegas Golden Knights. Should be very fun, should be very good for the boys. Let's come away with this with a couple of wins. Let's be ambitious going into 2026, folks. That is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.